CommBank's webinar on becoming cyber savvy. Hi, my name's Michael Smale, and my job is talking to Australians about protecting their online security. In today's webinar, we're going to look at how to stay safe online, but before we kick off, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we're meeting today. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I do also need to make you aware that today's session will cover general information only. You will need to determine if it's suitable for your individual situation. Now, back to becoming cyber savvy. It actually only requires you to take a few steps in order to get the basics right, which I'll take you through now. Firstly, we'll look at how to lock down your digital accounts with passphrases and second-factor authentication. We'll then look at how to secure your devices with updates, antivirus, backups and more. Before moving on to look at how you can browse the web more safely by using trusted networks and avoiding dodgy websites. Finally, we'll help you identify the signs of phishing scams and learn how to avoid them. So let's look at the first step, locking down your digital accounts. Let me start by describing the problem with passwords. When you started out online, you were probably asked to come up with a password for the first time. It turns out that most of us started with a simple password like one of these. Then, as more websites came along, we started using the password on multiple sites. Many of us still reuse the same or similar password. Then they asked us to add complexity, so we substituted a couple of letters for a number or a symbol. Now when we go to a website, we know it's one of maybe 5 or 6 permutations of the same password we've been using for years, but we can never remember exactly which one. Does that sound familiar? It's a common scenario, but it's not very secure, especially as short passwords like these are easy to guess, as computers can test billions of passwords per second. If you've reused a password or been using a similar password on pretty much every single website, all your websites are at risk if one of them is breached. And lots of login data has fallen into the hands of cybercriminals through various data breaches, so your password may already be compromised. So we've created a demo video showing how attackers can use our password weaknesses against us. In this case, it is a fake target and it shows from an attacker's perspective. There's 3 stages and I'll talk through them first before I play the video. First up is reconnaissance. So this is finding any publicly available information about a victim. Then creating a customized password list. So that's the 10,000 most likely passwords for that user based on what we were able to find out about them. Brute forcing is the final stage into an online account. That's repeatedly hammering a website with hundreds of passwords a second until one of them works. So, the attacker will start out by finding any publicly available information about a target. In this case, they found the social media page of a person called Sarah Jenkins. We can already see some interesting pieces of information, including what looks like her full name and date of birth in her username. It looks like there's information in her posts too. There's the son and the husband as well. Other photos look to be taken on the husband's birthday, so we can calculate their date of birth from that, same with the birth of the child. So now we take all those details we've gathered and we use an app to create a custom password database. This is free and publicly available piece of software. It's going to interactively ask us a series of questions about the target. We'll go and fill in that information. It asks for names, anniversaries, other keywords about the target. A lot of people think their password is secure because you might have used an @ instead of an A, but that's just on a tick box to enable all these common substitutions in this application. In less than a millisecond, you'll see that we've created 10,000 or so most likely passwords for Sarah Jenkins. So you can see down the bottom that in 15 seconds, it has done 50 passwords, 25 seconds it's done 100, 45 seconds, 200, 400 in 1 minute and 20 seconds. We know that if Sarah Jenkins is using a predictable password, it will pop out at any time. And after 1 minute and 52 seconds, we've cracked Sarah Jenkins' password. Turns out her password was Jenkins05. That seems to be her surname and her birth month. Now that we have her password, we go to one of the websites such as a blog and we log in using the username and password we just discovered. Now that we're in, we could do all kinds of things to her blog. But the second thing that an attacker is going to do is to try and go to other accounts on the web, such as your email. And if you think about it, your email is actually a very important account because most of your other accounts on the web reset to your email. So it's kind of having the keys to the kingdom. Now, some websites have protections against getting a password wrong multiple times, but an attacker can perform what is called an offline attack and test hundreds of passwords a second, billions even, then log into the website once. There's also the risk of attackers brute forcing into a less important account, but then using that password to get into a more important account. And it's for these reasons that it's really important to have a strong password. The other thing you can do to make your passwords more secure is to make them as long as possible. It comes from this simple fact: a longer password is preferable than a short one, even if it's complex. So we like to say create a passphrase, not a password. A passphrase is a long and wacky sentence. Use special characters or numbers for added security, and we say make it long because that gives you the security, and we say make it wacky because you don't want a commonly used phrase or lyric that an attacker could guess. I'm sure over recent times, you likely would have heard about a change to the humble password extending it into that longer and stronger passphrase. We've also looked at the risks associated with using easily identifiable information as part of your password. Let us now have a look about how you can construct your own memorable yet stronger passphrase that will increase your account security. So for today, we've created the dummy passphrase to show how simple yet memorable they can be. While I think it's great, don't use this for your own. As you will see appearing on screen, your wolf ate a book. A 16-character passphrase that is long and would be incredibly difficult for someone to guess, even if they knew everything about me. One thing you'll notice is that I haven't used spaces. Some sites won't allow them, but if it does, it's another way to extend it even further. So think about your own wacky passphrase that you could use. We've created some example passwords and passphrases here, and we're comparing how long it would take a naive computer, that is to say, one running a really simple, non-sophisticated program that generates random sequences of letters and numbers to guess. Take, for example, an old school password like Main Road. It's a location-based password, very common. In the worst case scenario, Main Road, with the cracking technology against the weakest password protection, would be cracked instantly, because it's such a simple password even though we're just doing a naive attack. The password lockdown, even with capital letters, would take no longer than 28 seconds. However, if you create a long and wacky passphrase such as "your wolf ate a book," well, suddenly that password would take 46 million years approximately to crack. So you can see the power of simply having a long password. Hopefully a silly passphrase is a lot easier to remember as well. Now, some websites require you to include special letters and numbers, and that's fine as well. Or you may just want to boost your security by adding one or two somewhere in the passphrase. Some websites have a maximum password length. That's fine too. Just make your password as long as possible. If you struggle to remember all those passwords, one thing you can consider is a password manager. A password manager is an app on your computer or phone that acts like a secure encrypted vault. You use the app to randomly generate a unique long and strong password for all of your less critical accounts. Then you secure all those passwords with one long, strong passphrase. So instead of having to remember 100 unique passphrases, you only have to remember a passphrase for your internet banking, maybe one for your email, and one for the password manager. Now, a lot of people ask, isn't that putting all your eggs in one basket? And it's true. Now you really do need to have a long, strong, unique passphrase for your password manager because it is protecting all your other passwords, and you need to consider which passwords you're happy to have in there. In reality, using the same password on every site, this is a riskier behaviour than using a password manager. Now, the bank doesn't endorse particular password managers, but make sure you do your research before choosing one by looking for one that have credible reviews on reputable websites. Now, I know a lot of people like to keep their passwords written down in a book or something. We don't recommend that, but if you're helping family members and they insist on writing passwords down, Here's a few tips. Take advantage of the fact that they're written down and make all the passwords long and unique. But also have a secret part of your passwords that's common to all of them. For example, a word or a number at the beginning. And the trick is to never write that part down. When you go to log in, add the secret part only stored in your head and then the rest of the password from the book. That way, you have long, unique passwords, and if you lose your book of passwords, the scammers still can't get in. One of the most important things you can do to stop relying on passwords alone. The best way to do that is to set up two-step verification, also known as second factor or multi-factor authentication. It works like this. You go to log in as normal and enter your username and password. If you're logging in from a computer or network you haven't used before, the page will then ask you to enter the code that is sent to your mobile, or in some cases via an SMS message or a special app, where the code changes every 30 seconds or so. It turns out if Sarah Jenkins, from the video we saw before, had second factor enabled, we would not have been able to get into her account. Most reputable services support two-step verification. Try to enable it on as many accounts as possible, but particularly banking, email, and any cloud storage. Visit cyber.gov.au/MFA for step-by-step guides on how to turn it on for your apps and services. Moving on to our second step, securing your devices. By securing your devices, you can reduce the risk of malware, software that criminals can use to steal your data. But how can you do this? First, make sure you're only downloading apps from official app stores. If you're on the iPhone, that's the Apple App Store. If you're on Android, then that's the Google Play Store. It's also really important to make sure you're picking the right apps on those app stores. So a good tip is checking the number of times a particular app has been downloaded. An app with millions of downloads is safer than one with only thousands of downloads. The second thing is keeping your apps, operating systems, antivirus, and web browser up to date. We sometimes get a bit of update fatigue, but updates are actually really important. Software updates are fixing the security holes in software. If you don't update, you're at risk of being attacked, so try and keep your devices updated. Fortunately, most software supports auto-updating now, so go into the settings and turn it on. Make sure you have antivirus software installed on your computer. Not only should you have antivirus on your computer and keep it up to date, but it's also important to ensure you protect your mobile devices such as phones and tablets as well. The Australian Cybersecurity Centre have an excellent online guide to get you started, and always make sure you research the best product for your needs. Make sure you have a passcode or password enabled on your device or biometric authentication, such as fingerprint or Face ID. That way, if it's lost, your information is better protected. Turn on full disk encryption. This is a setting that encrypts your files and can prevent clever attackers removing your disks to find your data. It's enabled by default on most phones, but good to switch on for your computers, particularly if there's a chance you could lose it. Enable backups for your important data. One of the sad trends of the past few years has been cybercriminals encrypting people's most important files, like sentimental photos or important documents, and demanding money to decrypt it. Making sure you have a working backup that is immune to a ransomware attack, either offline or has file history enabled, will make sure you never lose your important data. While you can make copies of the data to another location, back up to a cloud service, or use removable media, it's important to consider the risks you're protecting against to decide which strategy or strategies best protect you. So we've now got to our third step. With your digital accounts locked down and your device secure, we are now ready to look at how to browse the web more safely. The first way to browse the web more safely is to be discerning about which kinds of networks you connect to. If you connect to an untrusted network, an attacker can do almost anything, including track your activities on the web, potentially install malware, and steal your passwords or credit card data as you surf the web. That's why it's best to only join networks you can trust. It's best to avoid public Wi-Fi where possible, particularly transport hubs, airports, and cafes. Use trusted Wi-Fi such as your home or work instead. Your mobile data, whether it's 4G, 5G on your phone or tablet, is a trusted network too. Pay extra attention to the network you're using for high-risk tasks. Leave your internet banking and online shopping for trusted networks. Another threat is dodgy or fake websites. Generally, you'll arrive at them from a link in a phishing email, from a search or social media ad, or even from a pesky pop-up or web page redirection. No matter how you arrive though, it's important to always be on the lookout when on the web, as these sites can do a range of damage, from stealing payment details or personal information including ID or account credentials, to installing malware on your computer. We recommend every time you enter personal information or passwords on a web page, stop before entering personal information. Check. Look for clues that something may not be right. Check the website address. Ideally, you just want to see the name of the website without anything else around it. So if it's CommBank, for example, it should just be commbank.com.au. Check for a padlock sign in the address bar and reject anything that doesn't stack up. So let's take a closer look at an example. Fake websites may look exactly like the real thing. So in this example, we've stripped it right back so we can concentrate on the address bar. If we take a look at this, there are a couple of red flags. Firstly, there is no padlock. In fact, most modern browsers even flag that the website is not secure, as in this example. Secondly, in this case, the web address is spelt wrongly, missing an M. We often see fake websites using similar misspelt names. On other occasions, we'll see something like these other two examples, with different words appearing alongside the familiar website name, showing that it is in fact a different website altogether. If you're on the real CommBank website, you'll see a padlock next to the name spelt correctly. Phishing scams are emails or text messages that purport to come from your bank or other online companies, but are actually designed to steal your passwords or other data. We'll take a closer look at these for our fourth step. Many phishing messages look real, but there are a few signs to look out for, which are probably best demonstrated by looking at some real-life examples. So let's look at this email. Firstly, it is addressed to a generic name and comes from an unfamiliar email address. Usually, they try to create a sense of urgency, as in this case, saying that CommBank will stop working. And there is, of course, the link. The link may look legitimate, but when you hover over it, it may be a different link entirely. And normally, they ask you for sensitive details, whether it is to log into your online banking or enter card details. Sometimes there are spelling and grammar mistakes, but not always. You should also be aware of phishing emails that entice you to click an attachment. This is a common way to spread malware. Phishing messages also come in SMS form too. Many people say, I got one of these messages and I don't even bank with that particular bank. That's because scammers often send these to hundreds of thousands of people at a time from a randomly generated list of phone numbers. They're just hoping that 1% will fall for it. There's a few signs. The sender can appear to come from CommBank or another bank. It can even show up in the same message thread as other legitimate messages, but you can't trust that, as SMS does no checking that a message is from who it says it is. They will try to create a sense of urgency. In this case, your account has been locked. Other red flags include, it prompts you to give sensitive details by asking you to log in. It goes to a web address that is not the normal web address for Commonwealth Bank. Here are a few other ways that scammers create a sense of urgency. Your account has been locked, you've had a new device access your account, you've made a payment to someone. All these are fake messages sent to our customers and are tricks designed to spur you into action and get you to click through to their dodgy website as part of a phishing scam. So to avoid being caught with a scam, stop and think before clicking or scanning any QR codes that arrive via email. Ask yourself, how can I verify this message is genuine? If you cannot verify the message, reject it. Never enter sensitive personal data like credit card numbers or passwords after clicking on a link. Let's have a look at how CommBank helps you stay safe online. We work hard to protect your security with a range of fraud prevention and monitoring technologies running 24/7 in the background. You can help make our job easier by conducting a security checkup in order to make sure your accounts are as secure as possible. To do this, simply log into the CommBank app. Select the menu in top left. Tap Accounts and Security. You may need to scroll down a little to see this. Then, click Start Your Security Checkup. This will then prompt you to review all your security settings on your account. If you do receive phishing emails or SMS, you can report it to us to help us keep all of our customers safe. Take a screenshot of an SMS or forward the email to hoax@cba.com.au and our cybersecurity staff will work to have the website taken down. Don't ever click on the link or attachment, and of course, never disclose your password or netcodes to anyone. If you're concerned about the safety of your accounts, call 13-222-1 immediately. To wrap up, here is a reminder of the key actions you can take today to make yourself more cyber savvy. Create long, unique passwords starting with the most critical accounts, online banking, government services and email. Set up a password manager for your less critical accounts. And turn on auto updates on your phone, tablet and computer. Thank you for watching the webinar today. Hopefully you found it useful. I'll leave you with a couple of useful links to learn more. You can find details of the latest scams at commbank.com.au/scams. And finally, you can find further tips and security advice about keeping your accounts safe at commbank.com.au/secure.